Preparing for retirement and planning for retirement is going to take a long time. What are some of the most common errors that people make when they're planning for retirement that you can avoid? Got that and more coming up. My name's Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. We all make mistakes in our financial life. You haven't been perfect, and the big idea is don't let those mistakes hold you back from continuing to plan and march forward. Work with your CFP, and they're not going to be impressed by your mistakes either. So you don't have anything to hide, don't have anything to be ashamed of. They're going to help you recalibrate, use any of that energy that you were feeling, gosh, but I could have been ahead, I could have been further ahead, blah, blah, blah. Use that energy to focus on their future and take the right steps, the next wise steps. When it comes to retirement planning, this is often your biggest financial goal. If you had a big goal of starting a business, something like that, then maybe this is secondary to that. But for many people, it's your biggest goal, and it's going to take the longest time for you to achieve. And so mistakes or errors when you're planning ahead can cost you big time. They really can. And again, you might make some, but hopefully you can observe the mistakes from others and learn from them and not make those mistakes yourself. And when we're talking about a goal that takes several decades to prepare for, if you can avoid a mistake here or there, that's going to help you stay on track and hopefully not have you go off track or have to delay or sacrifice some of that big goal. What are some of the most common errors that people make when they are planning for retirement? First, and if you're a fan of the Wise Money Show, you know I'm going to say this first one, and that is using an online retirement calculator, not doing a full 5-factor retirement plan. I soapbox this all the time because I get it. This big goal that's almost universal. We all have a goal of being able to retire someday or being financially free, working because we want to, not because we have to. And if it's shared by all, then technology is out there or certain financial folks are out there saying, oh, it's really easy to know where you stand. It's really easy. And guys, yeah, let's make it as easy as possible, but not any easier than that. And therefore, a lot of online calculators just sort of overlook a lot of the variables, a lot of the decisions, and they just say, here's where you're at. And they don't do a full 5-factor retirement plan. And we talk about this all the time. And if you think, hey, no, this is missing something, or you're emphasizing one thing too much, I mean, just tell me. But in our experience, 30 years of helping folks, helping thousands of people retire, there's 5 different factors. There's 5 decisions that they're all interrelated. So if you make a decision in one area, it's going to impact your choices in the other. And you've got to look at all 5 of these to then determine, are you on track to retire? Online calculators often only look at how much you have saved, or they only look at how much you have saved and what your pre-retirement income is. They're not looking at all of these variables and giving you a full picture on whether you're on track or what things you need to do to get on track. Just really quickly, the 5 factors of your retirement are: what age do you want to be done? So your age, but also it's life expectancy. So how long is your retirement expected to last? Second, how much are you going to be spending in retirement? So not only your base expenses, but also new expenses, vacations or travel, those sorts of things, Medicare, and applying an inflation rate to all of those things. What are your income sources going to be in retirement? How will you optimize Social Security? Will you have other income sources as well? Fourth is, how much do you have saved up? So what do you have saved up right now for retirement? And then what are you going to be saving from here until retirement? You maxing out your 401k, you're doing a Roth IRA, those sorts of things. So that's the fourth area, savings. And then how much investment risk are you comfortable taking? So basically that investment risk determines how much variation you'll see in your total investments that you have saved up, but also how much growth potential you can see as well. Those are your 5 factors. You've got to look at all 5 of those to determine, am I on track? And oftentimes online calculators trying to make it super easy, they overlook or over assume in a few of those categories and just emphasize a couple And guys, it gives you an incomplete picture, not enough clarity to make the biggest financial decision of your life. Second common error in retirement planning, and you definitely see this in these online calculators, and that is not fully accounting for Medicare expenses and planning for Medicare expenses in retirement. Right now, even if you're in your 30s or 40s, we know what Medicare costs right now. We know it. And $185 per person per month. That is the base rate for Medicare Part B. Part A typically is not an additional expense. Part D, we can figure out or make some assumptions about the average monthly premium for your Medicare Part D and even the supplement plan. So right now it is knowable. While it's not knowable what Medicare will cost in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, or whenever you retire, we know what it costs right now. And so often people don't include this in their retirement projection. They just assume, well, I'm going to spend 70% of my pre-retirement income. Okay, well, what's health insurance going to be of that? Are you factoring that in at all? And then the other thing is, even if you say, oh, no, well, health insurance is included in that. Well, then what are you inflating that by? Because we just saw the Medicare Part B premium go up 6% from 2024 to 2025. Even though the rest of inflation is 3% or less, we've seen Medicare costs go up at a higher level than inflation. And I think based on the current funding level of Medicare and how much health care is costing, I think it would be prudent to assume that healthcare costs continue to rise at a level above inflation. Is that factored into your retirement plan? If it's not, that's one of the common mistakes that we see. Third common mistake as you're planning for retirement is assuming too optimistic of investment returns or assuming your investments are going to grow faster than what they typically do. If you look back at the long-term average of the US stock market, large cap stocks, yeah, it's double digits. It's fantastic, unbelievable. Even the past 10 years with COVID and with all the complications that we've had, it's had an unbelievable run. However, you're diversified, right? And you shouldn't have all of your dollars just in the S&P 500 index, right? And even if you say, no, right now I do, I'm really comfortable with that. Well, assume that you have a lot more dollars. You're right on the cusp of retirement. You've got more money saved up than you've ever had in your life. Are you just going to have it just in the S&P 500? And therefore, assuming that your investments throughout retirement are going to earn 10% a year or whatever the US large cap stocks, that would be likely a too optimistic of a picture. And if you paint too optimistic of a picture of what your investments will earn for you, then it's going to give you a false sense of security and possibly have you save up or sacrifice too little and save up too little, and all of a sudden you get to retirement thinking you're prepared when in fact you don't have enough saved up. Here's sort of my phrasing. You want to be in the ballpark, but then once you're in the ballpark, be a little conservative. So for our clients, we look at historical returns, but of a diversified portfolio, and then we assume a little bit less. Not a ton less, because then the whole plan would be unrealistic, but just a little bit less, because we don't want to assume that the stock market or your investments need to be perfect in order for your retirement to work. Fourth most common mistake or error that people make as they're planning for retirement is assuming too low of inflation in their projections or not factoring in inflation at all. We see these all the time. Now, I will tell you, almost all retirement projections before 2020 didn't, if someone was doing it without using a certified financial planner or without a 5-factor retirement plan, they weren't really including inflation at all, or maybe 2% of inflation, because it didn't feel real. It hadn't felt real. Inflation hadn't been there or felt like it was there for 40 years. Well, then we go through 2020, well, basically 21, 22, 23, and all of a sudden people realize, oh my goodness, inflation's there. I need to make sure that I'm accounting for this in my retirement. And you do. If you make even the slightest change to your inflation assumption over the decades that retirement's going to last, it's going to have an enormous influence on your confidence level, your ability for that retirement plan to succeed. So what we do see is a lot of online calculators not even tell you what inflation assumption they're using. So they might be assuming 0, or they might be assuming a very low inflation level, 1 or 2%. That's going to make your financial plan, your retirement picture, look better than it otherwise is, and therefore yeah, you want to make sure you're dialed in and aware what inflation assumption are we using, and therefore can I trust the results of this retirement projection. And then finally, the fifth most common error that we see people make as they are preparing for retirement and planning for retirement is not stress testing their assumptions about retirement across multiple different economic or stock market returns. Most online calculators, or most folks, just if they're engineer types, they're comfortable with Excel, they'll just sort of map out their variables and do some math, and well, if my investments can return 6% a year, that'll give me this amount of income plus my Social Security, that'll be enough for me to live. But they don't assume, well, or they don't plan for, yeah, but what if the average is 6%? But what if we go through a stretch where my investments return less than 3%? Because we have a negative year, a positive year, and then a flat year, something like that. What would happen if our investments far outperform in the early part, but then for the next 10 years we have another lost decade and our investments really underperform? All of those 5 factors, those variables that impact your ability to retire with confidence, you then want to stress test them. We use 1,000 different trials of the stock market's really good, really bad, and 998 scenarios in between to determine what percentage of those do you make it to your life expectancy, or we plan a little bit beyond that, where you haven't run out of money, right? Where you haven't run out of your investment capital. So just assuming that the market, the average return is going to be this, and therefore in retirement I'll experience this and this and this and this. That is a significant error and can often lead you to having overconfidence in your retirement plan based on an unrealistic projection of the future. So those are the 5 most common errors that people make as they're planning ahead for retirement. And with such a big goal, the biggest financial goal likely that you've got that you've got on your shoulders, you want to avoid those common mistakes so that you can feel confident in your approach and your plan, and that you are on track. So work with your certified financial planner on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team that can help you with that 5-factor retirement plan, give you that clarity and confidence, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or send us an email, info@korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.